The Montreal Jewish Magazine is pleased to introduce you to our new Consul General for Israel in Montreal, just arrived, Paul Hirschson. Welcome to Montreal, Mr. Consul General.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been here 6 days now, and it's a spectacular place from what I can see.
So tell me, how did it end up that you were posted in Montreal? How did that happen?
Oh, I asked for the job. So I wasn't the only one who asked for it, but I asked for the job. I had been back in Israel for almost 3 years. I was the ambassador in West Africa, based in Montreal, in Dakar. You see, I'm already adopting Montreal as my default city.
Yeah.
I was based in Dakar in Senegal. I covered 6 or 7 countries in West Africa for 3 years. I was there. Got back to Israel almost 3 years ago, and it was time. It felt like it was the right time to go back out on another posting. So Montreal came up, and I figured this will be a change, a little bit out of my comfort zone, a little bit out of my beaten track. I spent a lot more time in the Arab world than perhaps anywhere else. And I thought there would be an interesting challenge and a new venue for me. So I asked for the job. The Foreign Ministry agreed, fortunately, and I arrived Thursday last week, or not yet a week.
Now, you've been in Israel the last couple of years, so obviously you've been there during the pandemic. Israel has been kind of a world leader in terms of how they've handled the pandemic. Unfortunately, the Delta variant has found its way into Israel. Now we're dealing with the Delta variant in Montreal. Do you think you have anything to share with our community about how to deal with COVID?
Well, look, I'm not a health professional, so I can't really tell you on that level. I can tell you that what definitely worked for us with the vaccinations, there's no question about that. We've started a booster vaccine. I took my mother just 9-10 days ago for her 3rd shot, for the booster shot. But I'm not a health professional, so I can't really tell you, wear masks, keep a distance, wash your hands. That's about it. Who would have believed we would be living in the time of a pandemic?
Yeah, I don't think people in Israel thought that they would have another wave either. It looked like they had herd immunity.
Well, not herd immunity. See, we're not vaccinating children under the age of 12, and we've got like a couple of million of them. So we simply, statistically, mathematically, we don't have the ability to reach herd immunity at the moment because we're not vaccinating that many people. But we've got Canada as well, but very, very high vaccination numbers percentage-wise. And I can tell you that it was unquestionably clear that this was the way to go, no question about it. Without the vaccinations, it could have been a total disaster, but it's not over yet. We'll beat it, but it's not yet over.
So you're in. What are your goals now? I mean, you just started. It's been, as we do this interview, it's been less than a week. What are your goals as Consul General in Montreal?
Well, there are a couple of issues. Look, let's not forget that there is a very significant Jewish community here in Montreal, and engaging with the Jewish community and further nurturing a very close relationship with Israel is very important. It's not the reason we have a consulate in Montreal or anywhere in the world, a consulate or an embassy, but given that there is a Jewish community, a significant Jewish community here, that's definitely up there amongst the priorities. The 2 foundation stones of the 2.5 of the consulate's existence are the political diplomatic relations with the decision makers and the opinion formers in Quebec and in Atlantic Canada. We engage with and we spend a lot of time with elected officials and various opinion formers across the 5 provinces of, as I say, Quebec and Atlantic Canada, and economic relations. The economic relations between Israel and Canada, I think, were both underperforming. It's more than $1 billion bilateral trade, but most of the business people out there who hear this interview will immediately understand that $1 billion in bilateral trade between 2 sovereign nations, of both of whom are members of the OECD, is simply not enough for either side. So we're very keen. We're very, very keen to grow. It's not just trade, tourism, investment, joint ventures. Joint ventures is an interesting one, actually. We're in a strange situation in Israel that we've never been in before, whereby we have 25,000, almost 25,000 more high-tech jobs than we can fill.
Wow.
Which means that we don't want to, but it looks like we're about to export 25,000 high-tech jobs. We would much rather upgrade our general non-high-tech public into the high-tech sector, and we'll do as much of that as we can. We'll do as much as we can, but the private sector can't wait. It's got deals to do and further research and development to progress. So there's an artificial intelligence sector here in Montreal of very, very impressive levels. So hopefully we can do some joint ventures and economic programs on that level as well. So those are the two: the political, diplomatic relations, economic relations. Consular services and the Jewish community would be a joint third. And emotionally, the Jewish community may be at the top, though.
For sure. Now, you're born in London, England, and raised in South Africa. So how did you make your way to Israel?
By aeroplane.
I love your sense of humor.
I'm born in London. It's true, it was sort of a family accident. My grandparents are born in Johannesburg. My parents are also born in Johannesburg. My grandparents' grandparents are buried in Johannesburg. I'm the first one not born there and the first one to leave. I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. For some people, I probably should say 19 and not 20, so that we can understand which century we're talking about.
Yeah.
In the not the early days of Israel's establishment, but Israel wasn't yet a high-tech superpower. I was fascinated with the story of Israel. So when I was 21, after doing most of my undergraduate degree, I decided it was time to move to Israel. And it was arguably the best decision I've ever made.
So how did you end up? You didn't go there as a diplomat. You did your army service. How did you end up becoming a diplomat?
Well, I like to say that it was my midlife crisis, and I had to choose between an off-road motorbike and joining the foreign ministry. I spent a decade prior to joining the foreign ministry in Israel's high-tech sector, and it was a fantastic time. About 7 years into those 10 years, my twins, now 21, my twins were born. And I took 6 months off. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to get to know them. And then I went back to doing business after that. But it wasn't the same. I needed a change. I was away from home too much. So I needed to, if I was going to go overseas, I needed to take the family with me. So which is what happened. An opportunity came up. I had been doing a lot of business in the Arab world. So I was by definition interested in Israel's foreign relations. A lot of business in Egypt, in Jordan, down in the Gulf. And I joined the foreign ministry and went out. My first posting was sort of a posting. Two of us, myself and another diplomat, went out to the United Arab Emirates 16 years ago, prior to the establishment of diplomatic relations, and I spent a few years out there.
What a fascinating place to be posted.
Yes, it was. Well, we didn't have diplomatic relations. We didn't have an embassy there. We were the first two to be posted there. We sort of planted the seeds. We started the conversation, as I like to say, which led to the Abraham Accords, to the peace treaty, the establishment of relations last year.
Right. And you also served some time in Miami, Florida.
Correct. I believe I've met about 50% of the Montreal Jewish community already.
Absolutely.
I spent 3 years, 2008 to 2011. My younger daughter's name is Mia because she was born in Miami.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
named after the city of Miami. I spent 3 glorious years in Miami. I must say that during the Miami summers, I did consider moving up to Montreal. It was a little hot and humid there during the summer.
Yeah.
But I spent 3 years there before going back home to Israel. And I did 4 years as spokesperson in the foreign ministry before moving to West Africa as the ambassador.
Well, I think you're going to enjoy yourselves in Montreal. I'm very happy you gave me this time for us to introduce you to the community, and I want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know it's a little bit early, but if I can take the opportunity to say Happy New Year, Shana Tova to the community out there.
It's never too early because this video is going to run for many weeks. So thank you for doing that, and all the best.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Great having the new Consul General for Montreal and Eastern Canada with us today.